We're doing to wait a few seconds for it to catch up to restream. So we are going live as soon as I get the signal. Boom, 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 boom. Welcome, everybody. Okay, here we go. Sweet. All right. Well, I am back on this live broadcast, doing this every Thursday night, and I am super stoked to have Craig Shamala here. So welcome, Craig.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, you bet. So there's a few ways that you can participate. We're streaming on several platforms. If you have questions, go ahead and type your questions into the comment section of YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. We'll be addressing some questions that we've gotten in the past. And I probably won't be able to get to all of your questions right now, but keep them coming in. We are tracking them. Great. And we have my assistant Jane is standing by to take any questions and make sure we're tracking those. So feel free to answer, ask anything that you want. But what I am excited to get into tonight with Craig is this guy. It was what was it? It was over the summer. I started to see some of your videos last winter, actually. And as I was watching these things, I was like, I think this guy likes the cold. I think this guy likes to go outside and make some really cool things in the cold. So questions that I have for Craig. But Craig, first, I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here in Chicago.
All right. So, yeah, I'm Craig Shamala. I live here in Chicago. I've been in the city now for 20 years, I think it's been, which is crazy to think about. I'm a photographer, videographer, kind of specialize in time lapse. I love just getting out, exploring the city, capturing it in new and unique ways, experiencing everything the city has to offer, from like museums to parks to whatever's going on. I try to get out there. Yeah.
That's true. You know, I noticed that when I'm like looking at I realize I'm totally biased because I'm always just looking for when you do the cold water stuff out in the cold. But yeah, no, you engage with the city on so many levels, from the sports stuff that I see you doing. I know that you do work out of the helicopter. I know you work with news. And so you get into the city on all kinds of levels. And I'll probably, we may explore that some.
Okay.
But I want to know what it's like for you as a cameraman, as somebody who's working with technology. What goes on when you get out into the cold? So, because as everybody knows who knows me, I love the cold and appreciate the city of Chicago and how that the city interacts with wintertime. But so now, what do you do when you're getting ready to go out and do something in the cold with your gear? What do you have to consider?
I mean, keeping warm is number one for me, because if I can't stay warm, especially my hands, it's just not a good experience, and that affects the creative process out there too. If I'm like out there 20 minutes and like, oh, this idea sparks, and then it's like, oh, I can't, my fingers are starting to tingle. Am I gonna stay out here and keep pushing it and see what I could do? Which a few years ago, I don't know, when I filmed that Blackhawks jersey on the Chicago River.
Yeah.
That wasn't really like a cold day, but I set out with that idea in my mind. I didn't really know how to execute it. I mean, I knew I was going to lower it down with a rope, but that day it wasn't that cold. It was in the 30s, but it was after like a snow, but it was kind of like slushy, wet snow. So I shot the stuff on the river, and then I just moved along the river walk, and I was setting up the jersey in different ways. And then next thing you know, I was like, oh man, my finger. I was wearing like knit gloves that you'd buy for like $3 somewhere.
Okay.
And they were like worn out from using my camera. The fingertips were.
I know, but you want that because you want to be able to feel the equipment that you're working with.
Yeah, but after I wrapped and everything was done, I'm like riding the bus home, and I was like, man, these are really tingling today.
Uh-huh.
And then I got back home and I like warmed them up, probably ran them under hot water, which you're not supposed to do. I think I kept it mellow at first and like eased it in, but then I was like, oh man, we got like white splotches starting to form, and definitely got a mild case of frostbite.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And my hands are still like super sensitive now.
Whoa.
This is like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Okay.
But that, yeah, it was like that time I kept shooting it. Now I'm like, I've always been on the hunt to find good gloves, because the best kinds are like mittens where your fingers are together, and you throw like a hand warmer in there, keeps everything nice and toasty. But when you're using this big thick mitten with camera equipment, it just doesn't.
No.
You don't get that tactile feel, and
no.
So it's like you either like pop a thumb out and you're like doing stuff, and then you're like, oh god, my thumb, it's starting to freeze.
So I'm not a doctor, but I have been experimenting more and more with cold water and what it does. And if you might look into the research on this, apparently I've heard from several people, and I've had one client who confirmed that this happened for her. With mild cases of frostbite, if you put your hands into cold water, like ice cold water, apparently what happens is where the frostbite was, and there's scar tissue there now.
Yeah.
It will actually heal the scar tissue in there. It will be painful.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be, like you're gonna be like, oh no, something's wrong. Like that's, but apparently what happens then is the nerves and the blood vessels in the ice water kind of need to extend into that spot. And so you put it in there. And this was actually Wim Hof was talking to Jordan Peterson about this, about like what to do with it. So I am, this is all like hearsay online, things like comments that I've gotten. So, but maybe something to try. I did have one client that had frostbite in her hands she actually got it from climbing up the
ladder,
coming out at one of the harbors, and she had it for a few weeks where she was like, yeah, I wasn't sure it was going to come back, but she was like, I think actually continuing to go into the cold water actually helped it heal. So I don't know.
I'll have to look into that in case I run into that again.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, so welcome everybody. I see more folks joining in. Beck, good to have you. Day, welcome. And brother Yeshua, welcome. Good to have you on here. If you've got questions or anything, feel free to type them in whatever platform you're on. We may get to some of them today, maybe not. But I've got a lot of questions for Craig and some reminiscing to do about a time that we shot a video not that long ago. So another thing.
Am I able to join the live?
Yeah, jump on in.
Well, I'm in it, but I mean, like share, like have me as like a host, so it would show up on my thing up here too.
Yeah, would you?
I thought there was a way to, because I've been in lives before, and it would be like request to join.
Okay, cool. Can I don't know if because we're going through the restream, if it will allow, but maybe it will.
I don't know if there's like, or if you have to send an invite or something.
Let me see.
Because I could just share a link to it.
Let's see. I'm not sure.
Here, pose for a quick photo here. I'll just share it normal way.
All right. Cool. We'll give that a try. It's not coming up as an option for me on here.
On your page, if you just go to his live, join the live, on the bottom right should be a request to join option.
Okay, cool.
I see it on mine, so.
Let's put this on there, see what happens. Okay, so I'm in there. I just see add comment. And then I see like a heart button. So I'm disrupting service here.
All good, all good. We're trying to get Craig on this live stream as well. I'm jumping in here and seeing if I'm getting any messages coming from you, but I don't see any. So I think this may be it. It's showing that I'm live and add. I don't see any way to add you.
Yeah, I don't see, because he was mentioning he was able to request. I don't see that on my own. Oh, I shared it to my story, so
Okay.
we'll see.
Well, cool. So I want to pick back up. So I got distracted with that bit about like ice water.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that somebody has told me recently is that they work in the emergency room, and that one of the things they do with surgeries is they'll freeze somebody's body who's alive. Because I was like, well, you know, if I ever get ice on any part of my body, like, it's going to be a bad thing, right? And she was like, actually, it's not that damaging if it's not for that long of a time. Like where the really bad frostbite happens is when it's like you're out, you know, in the wilderness for hours and hours. Yeah. And so I was wondering about that, because I mean, honestly, if you had told me 3 years ago that like I would be going into Lake Michigan when it was like below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, like I would like, no way,
Right?
No freaking way. But then just by playing with it bit by bit and seeing like, oh my gosh, like this is actually possible, is sort of how I got here. So we'll see. So you, when you're going out, you're now more conscious of your hands and what kind of like gloves you've got ready for yourself. Anything else that you recommend?
I mean, I usually wear a couple layers. Like I'll have like thermals on, and then I usually just wear like standard jeans or pants, which unless it's like a super snowy snowstorm, then I'll put like some like waterproof pants on.
Okay.
But let's see. The last time I went out, which was this past Saturday, it was kind of cold.
Yeah.
I just threw 2 down jackets on because I had one. There was like thinner ones, but I was like, I'm just gonna double up. Could always take it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really do anything too crazy. I mean, I'll wear waterproof shoes for sure, and then if it's icy out, I have crampons, yak tracks, spikes for your shoes. Because if I'm walking around out there in the ice, it's definitely easier to maneuver around, especially when you're on the piers that don't have easy access to get back to land.
Totally. I was wondering about that. So some of the video that first had me be like, I need to meet this man, was the one where it's you literally ice skating down one of the hooks out on the lake. And when it's like that, like, are you worried that you're going to fall into the water?
I mean, there's definitely a little bit of fear there. But I mean, those piers are pretty wide.
Okay.
And so I stayed toward the inner side. And when I first tried it was actually up in Montrose. And Montrose Harbor, the pier hook there still has the remnants of like the fencing that goes right down the middle. So I stayed on the inside. So if I did fall, there'd be like a little something for me to grab onto, but I would have to be really cooking on that on my skates to like fall and just sliding 10 feet into the lake. So after I did that one, then I was like, I should go down to North Ave and see what that looks like, because that has the more scenic backdrop of the skyline.
Yeah.
Like you can still see it from Montrose, but you got to have like a long lens set up from further out and
totally.
But I mean, I wasn't cruising around there like hockey player, figure skater, or whatever. I was kind of just slowly gliding.
That's true. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like well, I'll say this. I felt more comfortable skating on it than walking on it.
Whoa. So that's what the crampons are for.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Now, when we did the shoot on like a month ago, were you wearing crampons that day? Did you need them?
I did have them on.
Okay.
The first time when you walked out of the ice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have them on that day.
Okay.
I pretty much always have them on if there's ice at all. And if not, they're like usually in my bag that I can just like toss them on. But I usually just throw them on as soon as I park or get out of my car. That way I'm just not having to take my gloves off and fidget with them and get those cold. So.
Okay. So now a question I've got is, I'm maybe just making this up, but when it's cold outside and you're working, like, do you find yourself more alert? Like, do you find yourself like, is it a different experience? Like, obviously it's freaking cold, but like mentally, is it a different game?
I guess it depends how bad the weather is. I mean, if it's like iced out everywhere, like after a storm, things are calm, there's no wind, like you're more like relaxed taking it in, you could like think about things more. But when it's like either snowing or the wind is like 30 miles an hour and you're just blowing at your face and you had to like cover it because it hurts so bad, like that's when you're like, do I really want to do this right now? But I mean, even when we had the week of polar vortex this winter, that first day of it, I went out and I think I spent like a total of like 5 hours out in the cold when it was that high. The high was like -13 or something.
What?
Was it that day?
Wait. You spent 5 hours.
Yeah, not continuously. So
Okay.
I started out at Adler and parked my car and I got out and I'd shoot for like 30 minutes and then I'd be like, oh man, my fingers are getting numb. So I'd hop back in the car, crank the heat up, put the heated steering wheel on, grab onto the heated steering wheel. And I was like, all right, I'm feeling them again, back out, do it again, just kept cycling. But then once you like kind of get used to it, like I could go further. And if I'm like walking around, if you're standing still and you're just like taking in all the wind and the cold, it's one thing. But if it's like, say I'm like, I went down, I think after the Adler, I went down to like Promontory Point.
Yeah.
So there you park and you walk a little bit further.
Uh-huh.
So it's like when you're moving around, your body's, generating heat.
Uh-huh.
Things are moving, you keep action and keep moving and it keeps you from freezing over more.
One of the things I've found is that if I eat and then go out into the cold, I'm way colder. And I think it's because the blood has to go to the belly to digest food.
Yeah, your body's using energy, I think, to digest instead of heat and
keep itself alive.
Yell at you to be like, what are you doing?
Hot coffee. And we're doing that, so I'm because any other cold water swimmers, like, how when you get back into the car, you're blasting the heat and you're starting to feel everything come back online. And so as you're doing that, so you have to do that, you heat up, go to the next location. And so when you're doing that, do you notice, like, does any part of you kind of crave the cold at this point?
That's a good question.
Like, does any part of you like, because like a lot of people, when they think about the Chicago winter, they're like, this sucks. Like, I can't wait for it to be over. Like, and I don't know, because you and I haven't talked that much about it, but I make up that like there's a part of you that's like, oh, like I'm gonna get some like I'm gonna get some cool shots.
Right.
Things are gonna look amazing. I get to have that experience with it. And then I'm wondering if there's any part too that's like a physical thing where you're like, oh, like that kind of feels good, or even though it's cold, like, but that kind of like playing with the weather in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll have to be more conscious of it next time I go out when it's cold and be like, how am I really feeling right now? Because I mean, I don't enjoy it when it's like super freezing out, but I love getting out and capturing what the city like becomes and how the terrain and all that changes from the cold weather. But yeah, I'll have to be more aware of that.
I remember the guy who did My Octopus Teacher. That was one of the things he said was he was like, I started to realize at a certain point that I was like, I think I'm just doing this also to feel the cold. Like I think like I totally am going to see the octopus, but like there's like this other thing about the environment that he mentioned he was like exploring. So I'm like, I don't know. In case you can't tell, part of what I want to do is have Chicagoans and other people who live in cold weather enjoy and embrace the cold weather. So if I'm at all, I'm totally biased about this. But okay. So now when we went out that day, what it was about -5, I think, at that time. And the sun was coming up, and we're getting set like of what we're going to do. What were you thinking about?
This is the first time we like
The very first time. So we met last summer, and then I was like, dude, I love the work that you do. I love how you capture the ice in the city, and we should totally do something next time it freezes. Yeah. So we had the deep freeze. I'm hitting you up on Instagram.
Yeah, you were like, hey, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to walk on the pancake ice. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. So yeah, I remember that getting out there that morning and walked out there, and I was like, all right, we got the ice. We got what we need. It's here. And then in my mind, I'm just kind of processing, like, how is he going to do this? Is he just going to like hop on out there and go for it? And I remember being on the end of the pier, just kind of seeing you come back out, and you're like, all right, I'm going to drop my stuff over here and then make my way out there. And I'm like, getting my camera ready. And next thing I know, I see you just hop out there. And I was like, I think in some of my footage, you could like hear me be like, oh, he's just going straight for it. He just hopped out on the ice and just started walking around. And yeah, it's just never seen that before. So it's like, one, I'm like processing this and being like, how can I capture this? And it's something that happens quick too, because I didn't know how long you'd be out there too. It's like, I feel like most people, when they cold swim or plunge or whatever, it's like they're out in there maybe like 30 seconds to a minute or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they're out. It's like they could get that quick hit. You, on the other hand, you were in there for like at least 10 minutes, I think, that first time. And yeah, it was just like, you were so calm, and you're just like, all right, I'm going to kind of go over here, do this, and then you pop back up on the ice. And then it was like, oh, walk on away, walking into the sunrise, back to your gear, and said, see you next time.
Totally. So now for those of you listening in who are interested in doing this, I built up to going in for 10 minutes like this. And I was honestly, the year before, I went in when it was that cold outside. And I kind of knew what to expect, because when I got out, when it's that cold, the body does not feel it. So that's one thing to like keep in mind. So I come out, and I feel like God. I just feel like I was like, you know what? I was out at Montrose that time. I was like, I'm just gonna go like, I think I'll walk out on the hook. This is my idea when it was like 0 degrees. And then I looked down and my nipples are see-through. And I was like, I'm gonna go get the fuck in the car. Cause this is, yeah, I'm clearly like, I feel amazing, but there's something going on with this. So I knew this year, and I had been experimenting with it a little bit more with my wife, and I went out to Montrose Harbor, and I got to play with it when it was like super cold and no. So I put on, I double bootied up. I had on 2 neoprene booties and then gloves. And I was like, okay, from the time I go in, that you're going to have me for about 10 minutes. And then when I go, like, I'm not going to come back and check in with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk to the car. And I'm going to get into that heat immediately. And so I knew that I was going to have, that I would be fine with that kind of length. And I was. Now, one of the things that does happen is that, like, if you're,
You just gotta notice.
oh, cool. Thank you. Silly outlook. If you're ever going out, know that you're likely going to get very high. Like if you're going in when it's very cold, like your mind set changes. And so I've talked to some people who go in and like sometimes like they don't want to go in for too long because like when they're driving back, they're like, I actually can't drive for a little bit because they're like, everything is so colorful and so trippy that like I feel high and I'm like, I shouldn't be driving right now. So that is something to keep in mind. Like if you're going to go out into ice water and be in there for a long time, coming back out can be a little vulnerable. And that is something, you know, then the day that we went out a few days later,
Yeah.
I remember that happening for me where I was in there for a long time. I was having so much fun. And I was always like, oh no, the ice is going to go away and I want to play with it as long as I can. And
Yeah, I think you were in there for like 20 minutes that day.
and I was
you hung out a little bit afterwards too, a little bit.
Yes.
You came back.
And I was pushing it that day. And so, but I did also know that like, okay, I'm able to stay out here and not get to the point where like hypothermia is setting in for I'm aware of that space where that starts to happen. So if you're going out and doing this, build up to it. Don't do it right away. My first time in was literally 17 seconds. That was it. And I just kept doing it pretty much every day for 2 years. And so there's that build up to it. So we're there. Now, once I left and walked away on North Avenue Beach, then like, what did you do after that? Like, what's the process of like when you're getting footage? Like, what do you do?
I think that day I was excited to get back and see it all. So I pretty much went straight home.
Okay.
Usually I'll hang out there longer and or move to a different spot. But that day I was like, I got to get back and see this. And get it up, get it live. But yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel because you were talking about feeling the high of the experience, would you get the same high from just going in like a cold bathtub in like your backyard, or is it the whole getting out to this urban environment with inside the city, the lake, ice everywhere?
That's a great question.
Is it a whole different feeling for you, or is it about the same?
The answer is yes. It's a very different experience. Like this morning when I went in, it was cold again outside, and there was ice on the ground, like where other people had gone in. And there's something about getting out of freezing water, something that's below 40 degrees, and then having cold air on the body, on the skin. And that right there, that experience to be literally outside, like with exposed, and to not feel cold is a trip. Like it's quite an experience. And so inside, taking an ice bath inside, it's like getting out. Like it's warm outside, but it's a very different thing. Um, the physiological response while I'm in the ice water may may be the same. And I do notice, like when I'm in an ice bath, even when it's inside, I mean I feel better. And like there was like one time where I have a video of it where my wife comes in to check on me, and I've been in there for about 13 minutes, and like I just kind of like peek out and see her, and she like sees me, and she's like, "Oh, motherfucker's high." And so it's like that does happen. It totally happens. But being in Lake Michigan, it's a huge body of water, and so to have all of that sensitivity, because I'm it's a different sensation, and to have that connected to this huge, massive body of water, it's like I can feel all of that, and then look up and see the Chicago skyline. It's a very, very, very different environment. And then the other thing about it too is the ice. So like I've been sad for a month because there's no more ice in the water. And there's something that happens when I'm literally like holding on to ice where it feels like I'm in a different planet. Like it feels like I'm like on a like different kind of zone. And so that you're not going to get inside. Like it's not going to happen. And so I think that the physiological benefits are still there when doing it inside, and like I'll do it inside through summertime. But it is the environment makes a huge difference. I do want to play around with there's a sauna up in Evanston, and I want to play around with that when it's really cold, like have it be like 0 degrees outside and go get in the sauna and feel what that's like, and then go back out. Like, I'm excited to try that out, see what happens. But yeah, totally.
Would that almost be too much of a shock, like going from that like extreme cold to extreme heat? I mean, this is nowhere on that scale, but like I feel going from like a pool, unheated pool, to like a hot tub and back is like a shock for me, which is nowhere on the scale of going in water that's like, I mean, I feel like an unheated pool is like 60 or 70 degrees maybe.
That's a good question. I would not get into hot water. I definitely wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But hot air, I don't know. I just haven't done it yet. Usually when it's that cold too, does your car take a while to heat up?
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll get back to the car, like that morning at North Avenue, like I get into the car, I start the thing, and like it doesn't actually warm up until I'm almost home. I'm like blasting air, and it's like, maybe warmer than it's outside, but it's not hot.
Right.
So it takes a while to even heat up. So I don't know. That's a good question. Like that going into significantly hotter air might be an issue. Thank you for making me think about it, because when I do it, I'm gonna be sensitive and pay attention to what's happening. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to report back.
Cool. Well, so as we're, one of the things that I would like to talk with you about, so I'm usually talking about just ice cold stuff and all of that. We might get back to some of that, but I don't always have somebody who I consider to be like a great craftsman or a wonderful artist with what they do. And if any of you have seen Craig's work, it's gorgeous. I mean, he does absolutely beautiful things, unique perspectives on the city, unique perspectives on life. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about that, about your creative process, about how it is that you see where your ideas come from, and then how you realize them. Like when you get an idea, and then what it takes to realize that.
Okay.
So I'll pick one, which is that moon one that you did recently. So I mean that's like something like that tapped for me like this like I mean the man in the moon thing and this whole kind of gorgeous little world that like shows up on my phone then. So how did you get that idea and how did you realize that?
I mean, I think it all starts like, oh, there's a full moon. I should get out and shoot it. So you get out there and you shoot just the moon. And like, yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't like wow me, you know?
Uh-huh.
Unless there's some people out there that like do crazy multiple like I don't know, multiple hundred exposures of the moon, and then you get like these insanely high res photos of it where you could like dial in and on all the little caverns and all the textures.
Whoa.
But for myself, it's like, yeah, I shot the moon a few times, do like some time lapses, but then it's like, how do I like take that to the next step? So you try to find like an element along the lakefront or wherever to have that foreground, and it makes the moon look so much bigger. So like I've gone out to, if I shoot the moon rising from my house, it just looks like a little ball rising over the skyline. But if I go out to Rosemont on that same angle, you get the moon looks ginormous when you're using a telephoto lens. So instead of like the moon being like the equivalent of like, I don't know, an eraser head or something on your screen, it looks like the size of like a sand dollar or something. So it's like when it passes behind Sears Tower or the Hancock Building, it's like it looks ginormous. And people would like, when people say, "Oh, that's fake, that's not real," then you know like you captured something cool. You know, it's like when people don't believe what they're seeing, sort of thing. So then I feel like as I've gone further in my like photo career, like anytime I can put like a human element in things too. So like that's kind of where that the most recent moonshot happened with the little lighthouse on North Ave Pier. It usually has this fence around it, but sometimes in the wintertime the the waves are so intense that it like blasts the fence off, and then it takes time for the parks department to come out there and put it back on. And then even on the top, there's like a locked little thing to go all the way up there, and that happens to be open right now, which is very rare. I think I've only seen that open like twice in the last 5 years or so. But so I went out there with a buddy, and it was just the two of us. We were going to set up and shoot from the thing, and I was like, you know what? It's a little icy here. We'll see what the moon's looking like. We're going to go set up on the beach. And then we got set up, and then I saw the moon rising and the color, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave my camera here. I'm just going to run there and pop up in there and hope it lined up. And luckily, I got lucky with how I set everything up. I kind of just like saw the angle it was going, and just kind of, I don't get very technical with like the moonrise angle and all that. I kind of, I use a lot of luck. I just kind of take notice of the general angle, and I was like, oh, that looks like it should go in there. And that time it ended up being perfect. And then ran back over and checked out like my camera. And I was like, oh, it lined up perfectly. But like I was in the moment too, where I was like, oh, I don't know if I got it. I thought about phoning my friend that was on the beach and be like, do I need to move or how's it looking? But I kind of just went with a hunch and did it and came back and it all worked out. But
dude, that's wild. I mean, how many? Wait. How many times does it not work out? Because that's like you got that perfect. Like that was like.
I mean that's the first time I've ever shot that with like a human on the actual lighthouse. So I got really lucky on that one.
Oh my god! Wait. To understand this, I mean, this is like he had to run. What is that? A half a mile? Quarter of a mile?
I don't know if it's probably maybe a quarter, but it's also like it was cold and I'm just like set up my gear and I'm running and I had to like record the behind the scenes and I'm like out of breath, kind of running, just hoping, and yeah, and then you get to it and pop up there and then you're like, all right, I think that should be it, and then go from there. But yeah, much easier if we had a third person out there to just pop up there. But to take that further, I'm connecting with a few people that pop up there, and like one idea that we're kind of working on is I'm going to construct like a giant smiley face that has the eyes and the mouth cut out. So he'll be up standing on the top of it, and then he'll raise that up in front of the sun and then like pull it down. So when he raises it up, it should just like hopefully shoot through beams of sunlight.
Oh, yes.
So I'm on the hunt for a giant piece of cardboard to make into a giant smiley face. So
okay,
that's hopefully it happens this weekend, maybe.
Giant piece of cardboard. What about like just a big that thin wood, like
That'd probably work too.
like
But I'm just
masonry?
trying to
Or
think.
it's too heavy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd have to get something to like cut it out, find some tools to do that. But I feel with cardboard, it'd be easier to like kind of make it so it could like fold up into like 3 stages and then just easily pass it up. Where if it's like a big, heavy, like
Yeah.
10 to 20 pound piece of material, then it's like more awkward to get up there.
Totally.
Because at a distance, if you just unfold that, it should be good if someone just holding it. But we'll see what happens.
I guess so. All right. If you have a giant piece of cardboard, message.
I saw Uline sells them, but it's like I got to buy 10 of them, and then they got to ship to me, which they have a warehouse, but it's like I don't know if I could just roll up and be like, give me 10 of these or buy one. We'll find out.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so now with the eclipse coming up, what are you thinking?
It's funny you should ask. I just ran into a friend earlier that he was like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, it's coming up quick, but I haven't really like made a plan yet.
Uh-huh.
I know like Indianapolis is going to be a good location for it. My sister lives down there. So I've got a different place to like go crash if I want. But yeah, I really regret missing out on the last one that happened. Like that was when I still had a full-time job. So I didn't really think it through and be like, this is something I should call off for and go travel for. I just like stuck it out in the city, and here it was like cloudy and you could like barely see it.
Yeah.
And then I saw everyone else sharing their stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Why didn't I go anywhere for this? But I mean, it's one of those things too, where it's like the smallest amount of clouds could really like mess things up. I mean,
Totally.
which I feel like happens a lot here for full moons, or anytime there's like a big event happening in the sky. It's like, oh yeah, we got clouds for it. But yeah, I got to figure that out. I mean, it's coming up. I've got one friend. He's been working on his like tripod setup. He's got like a rig that'll like track with it.
Oh, cool.
I don't have anything too crazy like that. I'll probably just set up, lock down, and adjust. But
Have you heard of I don't know what they call it something, but when my wife and I were down in Carbondale area, like 2 or 3 minutes before, like a lot of things happened. But one of the things was that the shadows on the ground, so like the tree shadows, they started like doing this like wavy thing. It looked like kind of like ultraviolet purple, like snake shadows started like happening. It was weird. It was like it was trippy. And then as it was happening more and more, then it kind of I was like, oh, it feels sort of like an ultraviolet light is happening overall. Like everything, there was sort of like this purple tinge, and the shadows got real trippy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that can be captured on video.
I think so. It should. I vaguely remember seeing like some, because don't like the shadows almost have like the eclipse sort of like something with the shape of the eclipse, like part of it. I'll have to re-look that up. I
Maybe
definitely saw something where it was like, what? I didn't think
it
that would
looked
happen.
like water. Like it looked like, so imagine like a tree,
Yeah.
you know, like the branches and some leaves and stuff, and then all of a sudden it looked like the whole thing was like shimmering. It kind of looked like a Van Gogh painting,
Okay.
like like a shadowy Van Gogh painting, and like the whole ground kind of got like that. I was like, whoa. And another thing was that all the bugs stopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it got quiet. Like all the animals and all the bugs were just like, all right, we're done. Like, like, oh my gosh. It was really, really cool that like the whole world felt it. You know, we were just talking about that because, you know, planning for the one coming
Yeah.
up. So, okay. Well, cool. Well, I look forward to seeing what you do with that.
Yeah.
That should be good. Well, I'm going to take, okay, so we're coming up on the hour here. I'm going to click on this. I'm a little afraid that if I click on this, it's going to like do. Oh,
Uh-oh.
yep, it did that. Okay, no, we're still going live. So I can't see any of your questions coming in here because I jumped off of the thing, but do type your questions and comments in on whatever platform you're on. We'll take a look at those later. So I am here with Craig Shamala, and we're talking about the cold. Well, we got into all kinds of other things I wanted to talk to Craig about, but I want to take us back now to the cold and explore. I don't know. Is there anything else that you are thinking of that goes into what you do in your process and all of that when it's cold outside, as you're making video? Like what else is there that from your perspective, how do you experience the cold?
I mean, I'm just trying to find new spots or like new like vantages of the city interacting with the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like trees that have been like blasted with lake water over and over, and they've got like an inch solid of ice all around them, or just like the ice building up throughout the winter, which usually happens. And then you like, I mean, I've been out at like North Ave Pier where you can't tell where the pier is.
Mm-hmm.
The ice is and snow is built up so much where you're standing, you're like, I think I'm on the pier.
Wait,
or am I on the beach? Yeah, I've been there. Wait.
Like the hook.
Mm-hmm.
You're out on the hook and you don't know?
Right.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That had to be, I think that was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Holy shit.
But yeah, it was like,
it froze that. So wait, so could you even see where the ice stopped?
there was a time where it was like frozen solid all the way out there, and then as the lake, moves and ebbs and flows, things crack and break up. But like that whole like inside hook, you couldn't tell where it was, like where the water was, and like even like the ice had to be built up on top of the pier itself, like 4 or 5 feet high, I would say, in certain points. Yeah, I'll send you the footage. I'll send it to you.
I'm so mad I wasn't there.
Or like other times where like a lot of times I don't really have a plan. I just be like, all right, it's been cold. Nowadays, like I'll check like the webcams that are all around the city and be like, get a view of the lake and be like, well, there's ice forming there. I know I'll go out there and see it. But sometimes you just go out there and there isn't any, but like there was a few years ago where we had like these ice balls had formed,
Dude.
and
Oh.
that one I had this idea of like putting a light behind them
Uh-huh.
and kind of playing to like songs or sound effects and to just kind of like randomly illuminate them. That one I've been like looking to do again, but no ice to do it this year. But yeah, there's like different stages of ice. Like a lot of it's just solid, can't see through it. Some of it's like glass, you just pick up and look through it and see all these like crazy textures, and makes you wonder how they were formed and like what the element, like how did the elements what did they do to that like water to like freeze it and put those designs in there and stuff.
You know, one of the weird things that we found going in at Montrose Harbor is that sometimes ice forms under the water, which is, it's weird. Like there'll be, I don't know, or maybe it didn't form under there, but somehow it got there. Like you'll jump in the water and then it's like, what's this big sheet of ice doing down here? And that's when you're talking about like just how that happens. Like, is it, you know, it forms on top, and then why is it sometimes clear and then other times it's just, you know, like foggy and chunky?
Because I know swimming in the summertime, I've been in there where it's like you could be in one area of the water and it definitely feel different temperatures.
Yeah.
Especially different depths. I don't know if that has a play in it, but
weird. Okay. So wait, if we get the ice ball ice again, I have not been in Lake Michigan with ice ball ice. And like, so what could we do with ice ball ice? Like in the water? I mean, like, because I'm imagining that's like perfect, because it's like these, I'm imagining, you know, softball to volleyball sized ice, and if I go into that, like, does it go how far down? Because I've seen video of it before where it's like moving.
I wonder if you could like lay on your back and just like float on it, if it would like hold your weight up. Just be like it's almost like you're on like a pool floaty or something, but it's nice.
yeah. And then that is the thing too, is like, would I be able to get back out of it, or how would I get out of it? Because it's like, you know, it's like a ball pen. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see if it happens.
Does the ice ball stuff ever form like where it's fairly shallow?
That's usually where they are, because like the waves come in. It's just like, it originally was like solid ice usually, I think, and then waves break it up and then they just keep hitting. It's kind of like how pancake ice is. It's like ice breaks and then it just keeps bumping into each other, and then like the sides kind of like billow up and make little like frosty edges on it, and they usually end up being round. But I feel with like the ice balls, that's like, I feel like it's like the whole thing with the different types of ice, like different freezes. I don't know if it's the temperature to get that like solid chunk, because you've been swimming where it's like shards of ice too.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, especially if you go out there and you could like just hear the sound of it, just like, and then when it starts like flowing, it's a whole different.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that can be concerning to me. That one day when we were out there, I knew like there was some layers that were thin enough I could just break through them, and then there was some that I couldn't. And I realized, I was like, okay, the ones that are too thick for me to break can hold my weight so I can get up on them. But there was that one shot you have of me where I like come up on the ice, and I don't know what would have happened. Like, I don't know, like, would that have broken my bones if I had just stayed in there? I don't know. So when that is something to consider when going in. If there's a whole bunch of, like, a big sheet of ice that's moving this way, like, I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful. There's not a whole lot that I can do about it other than get on top of it.
Yeah, because that second time you went out at Ohio Street, there was a little bit of like for the most part things were pretty calm out there, and then like you could see it like all shifting one way, and then it shifted back a little, and then it just kind of like stopped. I don't know if like there was a rogue boat somewhere out on the lake that like sent one like wave in to like, because that's, I mean, that's something to consider. It's very rare, I think, in the wintertime for a boat to do that, be out there for one thing, but yeah, rogue wave comes in and splashed. Got the big squeeze.
I don't like that. That's scary. But okay, so, well, I think, as we're moving towards the end of our hour, is there anything else that you want to share before we close today?
I mean, I'm just glad we ran into each other and then reconnect. I think it was at like the Dark Matter block party. That's where I ran into you the second time. And then I was like, wait, oh yeah. And that was what, like July?
Yeah.
It was? And then, yeah, we're talking about when getting out in the wintertime. And then next thing you know, I get this message, and the rest is history. Now we just need more winter weather to freeze things over. But I think this weekend this might be like the warmest polar plunge ever.
Yeah.
It's like 72 degrees or something.
Which, by the way, if you are wanting to do this, if this is of any interest to you, a great way to get started with it is to go jump in with thousands of other people. So the Special Olympics polar plunge is this weekend on Sunday, and it's phenomenal. There's literally thousands of people. And so if you're like, have trepidation about going into the water, and seeing a bunch of other people do it helps you, it's a great time to do it. And you still get the benefits because the water is still freaking cold. Even if the air temperature is hot, it's going to be below 40 degrees in the water, I think. So, you're still a badass if you do it. So totally.
Yeah, they started setting everything up last weekend because I went out there and I was like, oh no, they're not. It's not this weekend. It's coming up to the next. But they got like all the warming houses for you to go on. But I mean, I don't even need that this time.
Probably
so
not.
It's like you go in, get that cold sensation, and then get out and kind of warm up a bit there.
Yeah. And there's totally tons of people, and they got music and the whole thing, and it's quite a to-do. So check that out. And then, I don't think that we're going to have any more. Like last Saturday, I was like, oh my God, there was like some snow on the ground. I was like so happy about it. But I don't think we're going to have any more until next year.
I mean, it is March tomorrow, but it's not that uncommon for us to not get some random snow into like April. But yeah, I mean, the way
I don't think we're going to get
so
the
warm.
freeze.
I think this is officially the warmest February ever.
Yeah.
In Chicago, so.
I know. I'm like thinking about like next year. I'm like, I hope that we get, because that's part of it is like, one of the reasons why I like going out into the water is if any of you have ever gone on a hike up a mountain, like a 4-hour at least experience where like, you're really climbing it. It's like this thing. The cool thing about going into Lake Michigan in the winter, and I think even just going out to the lake, like it's like, I don't know, like, is that it feels that same way, only it's like less time. I didn't spend 4 hours. I literally spent like a half an hour to an hour in the whole process. And I still have that same kind of elation and like sense that I've like like seeing the world from a different perspective that like kind of carries me into the week in a different sort of way. And so I'm hoping that we get more of it next winter. And I know that many of you will be like, no, I like it warm, but I don't know, maybe go play with it some. Go play with the cold and see what happens. So, okay, so we've got that. We'll see. It's great being with you. Good to learn more about you and your process of just like how you do stuff. Because you make gorgeous things. You know, and it's a real treat to like open up my phone and be able to see whatever you're working on. And so it brings me a lot of joy. I know it brings a lot of you joy seeing what Craig does. And so it's like just that you're able to have an artistic format that you're able to share with so many people. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing more stuff.
Hopefully a giant smiley face.
Yes. Well, cool. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining in tonight. I'll be posting more of this stuff later. And I want to give a shout out to Hairpin Art Center. That's where we're at in Logan Square, for hosting us, having us use this space. Big thank you. Thank you to Melody. Thank you to Day, the producer. Thank you to Nilda and everybody involved at Hairpin Art Center, having this space available to us. We really appreciate it. So many blessings, and until next time. So long. And